Peace, y'all. Give me just 1 second. Let me let everybody know I'm live. Actually, instead of doing that, let's just do this. My lighting is off. I don't know why. Let me see if I turn this ring lamp off. I'm sitting in front of the window. So if I come close, you can see me clearly. But if I fade to black, then I'm not going to be worried about all of that, though. Peace to everybody in the chat room. Let me let my everybody know I'm live. Here we go. Peace. What's up, y'all? This is Zaza Ali. I am going live right now on my YouTube channel. My subject is The Chosen Ones, not to be confused with the live I'm doing later this afternoon or this evening at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, called titled Dr. Fauci and the Supreme Liars, as they all are. And some of you guys are just now becoming abreast with that. Some of us knew that in 2020 at the very beginning of all of the psychological warfare and trauma that they inflicted on us and all of the human family around the world. But before I had that conversation, I wanted to just have a heart-to-heart conversation about something a little lighter, something a little brighter, something that will inspire me and give me the foundation that I need to have that conversation, because it's a lot and I have been triggered on a certain level. Let me fix my camera. I've been triggered on a certain level when it comes to this topic that has been trending over these last few days. So come through. I'm on YouTube right now live, The Chosen Ones, and I will click the link. I will add the link so you guys can just come join us. Peace and love. All right, that's part one. Let me share the link. Peace, what's up, y'all? This is Zaza Ali. I am going live right now on my YouTube channel. My subject is The Chosen Ones. I should have did this before I went live, but it's all good. Later this afternoon or this evening at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, called titled Dr. Fauci. Let me turn this down. Peace and love, family. How y'all doing? Give me 1 second. I'm just letting everybody know that I am live. And every time I go on Instagram, I see something that's just so stupid or so absurd that it just makes me remember that I'm not going to be on social media a lot longer. Let's see. All right, there we go. Yeah, I said inspire me. This video is for inspiration purposes only for your girl, because the live that I'm going to do later today about Dr. Fauci is probably going to put me in lioness mode. And it's definitely going to put me in lioness mode. And so I want to, usually when I do certain topics, I will, I'll talk about worldly things, so to speak, and then I'll turn around and do a video like this video to sort of balance the equation. And that was my plan for today. Actually, that was my plan for yesterday, but it didn't happen. Today, I want to have this type of conversation, this quality of conversation first, and this is going to kind of set the tone for the energy that I come into this video later when it comes to Dr. Fauci and the situation that has been inflicted upon us and projected upon us over these last 6 years. And I want to make sure that I'm clear about what they did to us. It's not what they did or what happened in past tense. It's still active. It's still current. It's still right now. It's still real, right? I think a lot of people are looking at the bigger scheme of things and thinking that this is something that happened in the past. But no, this is absolutely 1000% still active and real right now. Let me turn on my frequency music real quick, and then I'll tap in with you guys in the chat room. Just want to give myself a little levity here, frequency-wise. How is my sound? Can you guys hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Is everything good on your end? Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Peace, Super Micah. No picture, screen is black. Yeah, that's okay. Peace, BJ, Major motivator, what's good? Kalia, what's good? Khalif. I thought I saw Kalia. Khalif. Peace, Tony, what's good? Always happy to see you and always happy to have you present with us. Peace, Rudy, what's good? Mr. Center of the World, what's good? Solo, Bro 4X. I think that's what that says. But hey, peace and love. How you doing? Peace, Lil Blizzy. What's good? I knew when I heard Minister Farrakhan give that speech in 2018. Yeah, I knew in 2015 when I wrote Black Matters, the Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs. Chef Joseph, how you doing, my brother? Good to see you here. I hope you are doing well. Spending my opinion was good. Miss Poetic Just, what's good, Queen? Happy to have you. Sweet Tea 86, peace and love. High Prototype was good. The Amazing Spider-Man. I wonder if you've seen the most recent movie. I heard it was good. I might go see it myself. Thank you so much, Tony Schaefer. I didn't mean to say your whole name, but I put you on blast, saying your government name and all of that. So pardon me. I just was excited because I didn't even say anything about reciprocity and showing me some love. And then you sent me some love anyway, as you always do. So thank you so much. I appreciate the cash app. Much love. Peace. High Flown was good. Wait a minute. Lotus of Arabia was good. How you doing? I like that screen name. That's actually kind of fly. Peace. Tevin was good. Looking forward to hearing your insight. Okay. Is that Lisa? I think that's you, Queen. How you doing, sis? It's good to see you. Keith Jones, what's good? General Simba, what's good, my brother? Happy to see you in the chat room. The Amazing Spider-Man said 8 out of 10. Okay, that's good numbers. I can work with that, especially with the quality of film that we've been seeing, ever since the pandemic and how they have very intentionally tried to destroy the movie and film industry. So yeah, I think I might have to check that out. Spin, in my opinion, said was good. I saw Spider-Man and liked it on July 31st. Stay after the credits too. Okay, I got you. UFO was good. Always happy to see you here. Thank you so much for being here and your presence. Much love, Jerome. How are you doing? Right now, it's always a great time for good news. Thank you, ma'am. It's all good. I appreciate the love, brother. Much love. Thank you so much for being here. Black August. Yeah, Black August, Black September, Black October, Black November, Black December, January, February, March, April, May. All of the things, right? We here representing the true and living gods. We are here representing a higher form of consciousness and representation of light and beings of light. And that's what I want to talk about today. Tom Holland, stop flirting. You can't have all the light skins. Okay, I don't know what that's about, but I think he's the guy who is married to, or was getting married to, Zendaya. And it's interesting because when they're side by side, I don't know, their energy doesn't necessarily, I don't know, maybe because she's taller than him. Maybe that's not it, because that's not always the case. I don't know. It's just something weird about their energy next to each other. And it ain't just because he's white, because some, interracial couples look good together. I don't know. It's just a thing. I don't know if that's one of those arranged relationships and marriages in Hollywood, because there are a lot of them, and then eventually some of them end up loving each other and some of them don't. But looking good. Looking forward to this. Good day, Zaza. Timberly, hey, my sis, how you doing? Hi. Yuquia? Am I saying your name right, sis? This is my Ethiopian sister. I'm pretty sure that's you. Yukiwa. I think I'm saying that right? I want to make sure I get it right because I hate when people butcher my name. But I know who you are. We always communicate, and I'm very happy to have you here. High Prototype said it's a beard. I would agree with that. Yeah, it's something weird about them. It's just, I don't know. That's not my business. So if she likes it, I love it. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Today is Sunday, August the 2nd, 2026. I pray this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. Real quick, let's do a sound check. Is my sound good? Can you guys hear me okay? Before I get to yapping. And then somebody turn around and tell me that I'm buffering or they can't hear me. And then I end up having to, So let me know if my sound, okay, Nigerian, close. It is Equa. Okay, I got you, sis. But I know who you are. Peace, Keith was good. Peace, Prime Phoenix was good. Kevin Carter, peace was good. Power to your efforts. Peace and love to all. That's a beautiful sentiment. Thank you so much. 77 Figures was good. Happy to have all of you guys here. And like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I got your sis, saw love. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I have scheduled for today at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time already. It's already up on my YouTube channel. I've already scheduled it live for 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Dr. Fauci and the Supreme Liars. And this last week, as this story has been trending, of course, I've been paying attention to it. I have a plethora of information that I want to share that it's honestly nothing new for me. It's all stuff that the Fauci hearings are one thing, but in terms of what they did and what they're doing and what those shots are doing to people, I have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content saved. Some of you guys may remember, or my real followers, my real family, I should say. I hate to use the term followers. My folks, you guys know that in 2022, I did a Kingdom Within web series. And this was at around the time, right before they started censoring my content. And I put it all up on my website. I was in Oakland at the time, visiting family, and I went and rented a place in San Francisco because I knew I didn't want anybody around me. I didn't want any energy around me. I wanted to be able to zone in and focus. I had 75 slides with video content, with information, with sources, with resources. And in my mind, I was thinking it was probably going to be like a 3.5 hour presentation. Lo and behold, that presentation ended up being more than 7 hours. So I rented an Airbnb in San Francisco, South San Francisco. And I had put together 2 years of research, and then I probably took like 2 months before I actually sat down and put that together. And I put all of this body of knowledge and body of information together, and I sat down, and right around the 3.5 hour mark, when I checked my clock, and I knew, I could tell like halfway through this, and I'm 3.5 hours in. And it wasn't like, sometimes when I go live on here, I'll have like a 20-minute intro or something, or a 10-minute intro or whatever, because I'm shooting the shit or chopping it up with you guys in the chat room or waiting for people to come in. That's usually what the delay is. And then I have announcements and stuff like that. But in that video, I just got straight to it. So halfway through, in my mind, because, anybody that speaks publicly or that does lecture presentations, it is very energy consuming. It's not like sitting and having a conversation with a friend for 3 hours. No, when you have your mind channeled in a certain way, when you are focused in a, laser sharp focused in a way that I do when I do my lecture presentations, or when I put together content, my headline news episodes or whatever, especially if it's something that I'm fired up about. So halfway through, I was like, oh my God, it's 3.5 hours in and I'm only halfway through. And one thought came to me like, okay, just do a part 1 and then you can turn around, get some rest, and then tomorrow do a part 2. And immediately my spirit was like, nope, I'm doing it all right now. So for 7 hours and 10 minutes, and I said at the end of the presentation, I'm a motherfucking legend, because it was legendary. Not just that I talked for 7+ hours, not just that I put together a body of knowledge and information about something that I knew in the back of my mind was either most people were not going to be able to receive it. I could get censored, all of the things that come with doing that. But also because I was standing on a lot of research. My research game is not a joke, y'all. I'm very serious and passionate about what I do. And so for 7 hours, I sat down and I talked about the masks. I talked about the swabs. I talked about the shots. I talked about the technology in the shots, which I was talking about in Black Matters Volume 1, The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs. I didn't even realize it at the time. I put that book out in 2015. So in 2015, I was already talking about the technology that was in the shots that they put out at the end of 2020, 2021. Okay. So I'm saying all of that to say, because that's not what this video is actually about. This is like a prerequisite to that, to raise the vibration, so we have the bandwidth to talk about what I'm going to talk about in that video. I need us to understand that the level of psychological warfare and mind games and mind manipulation that is being afflicted upon us right now is absolutely staggering and mind blowing. And if you have spiritual discernment, and I can add to that mental and emotional discernment, right? Mental discernment almost sounds, I think it's kind of like we all, it's not even something you think about because we just expect that we all have mental, discernment, but like, nah, we are living in a time of extreme ignorance and extreme darkness. I can't tell you how many times I go online when I listen to. I'm unfollowing a lot of content right now, and I'm spending a lot less time on social media right now because, especially when it comes to this Fauci thing and all of the energy around that is being retriggered, which is their intention. They also want you guys and all of us to know they are the it's theater what we're watching in terms of Fauci and those hearings. But what they are doing is disclosing what they did and what they're doing right now, right? So it's some real fork-tongued devil type shit happening right in front of our faces, right? So I'm remembering not only how family members ostracized me, how smartasses online, came after me in so many different ways. The ones with the degrees, right? The lettered ones, who we all kind of respected and thought that they were the upper echelons of mental society. Like, yeah, no, we found out most 99, well, I'll say 97%, just to be modest in my assessment. The people that are supposed to be creating solutions and helping us to rise above the conditions, those are what I feel like having a degree is supposed to be about, right? The intellectuals, the academic ones around us in our society are supposed to be solving the problems, right? Well, many, if not most of them, became a part of the problem. And so I am sitting back and I'm watching and I'm remembering all of these things. And I'm remembering the anxiety that I felt every time somebody I knew told me they took that shot or they gave their children the shot, right? I'm remembering what it felt like for me to be censored for 20 months straight, how much money I lost, how much business I lost, right? The pressure and the stress and strain that I went through from coming and trying to notify people of what I knew was happening before I even had proof, and then what I saw unfolding, right? And it's a very, 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 very heavy cross to carry, and I've paid a very heavy price. So the chosen ones, this idea and that language of the chosen ones is specifically about having the courage, having the kahunas, having the discernment, having the awareness, having the fortitude, being thorough, right? Being rooted, being sure of something, being passionate about something, being alive and paying attention and having a certain level of self-awareness in this timeline and how critical and how important that is. Because even when I look back at the price that I paid, I know for a fact that there's hundreds, if not thousands of people around the world that did not take that shot because of my voice, because of my research, because of my book, because of my writings, because of my intensity, right? And so that makes it worth it. But in this timeline right now, and I'm talking about me, but I'm also talking about you, whoever, the chosen ones who choose themselves, which I'm going to get into that in just a second. Yeah, there is a heavy price to pay, but there's also a wonderful, beautiful reward on the other end, right? So I'm going to get into that in just a second. I have some content that I want to share with you guys. I've got a video of Tabitha Brown and her husband talking about the Nolan Wells situation. And I want to talk about that in terms of fear vibration and fear context, especially because race is going to be a major part of this timeline and this current dichotomy that we're in. I have a few other videos. I have some memes I want to share. I've got my notes, and then I've got passages that I want to read from both the mysticism of Sound and Music by Hazrat Inayat Khan, which is one of my favorite authors. And then, of course, 3 Magic Words, which we are currently reading in my book club membership channel. So shout out to all of my members. If you are in my membership channel, my plan was to film and record Headline News, our latest episode, on Friday. My AC went out in my apartment and it was 90 degrees. So I was not about to sit here sweating and thugging it out to finish that. So it's fixed now, but it took a couple of days. So what I'm going to do is part of what I'm going to talk about later is going to be part of the Headline News episode in terms of Fauci. And in Headline News, I'm going to talk about all the stuff I can't talk about live on YouTube. But yeah, I'm going to get that up, record that. I have an entertainment section in the next episode of Headline News. And then I'll also have a worldly section where we talk about what's happening in Spain right now, that whole theater, everything happening in that Europe and Spain and Morocco, that's all theater. I'm going to go do a more in-depth analysis about the Dr. Fauci situation and all the stuff I can't talk about. And a few other things. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to take up too much time. Shout out to everybody who just now tuned in. Make sure you guys like this video, please. Help me get active in the algorithm, because I know later when I start talking that talk, what they do, how they operate. And so, yeah, please like this video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because this is the type of content that I put out consistently. A couple of announcements. My next book club meeting is Saturday, August 15th. Members, if you have questions for Ask Me Anything, you can post them on the YouTube membership channel or in my ZazaAli.com membership channel. Of course, you can do that at any time. Headline News episode coming tomorrow. There is a link in the description for half off of 101 consultations. This August 2026 is my last year offering 101 consultations for good. No more occasional sales, no more occasional offerings, no more occasional opening up my calendar. I know what's coming. I know that the shit's getting ready to hit the fan, not just in the collective consciousness, but in people's individual lives. And I know when the shit hits the fan that people are going to be clamoring for guidance and for clarity and to sit up straight when they should have been sitting up straight for the last 6 years. And I'm not going to be on the other end of that energy. So if you would like to speak with me, to allow me to assist you in whatever capacity possible, August 2026 is the last time to actually do that. There's a 50% off link in the description. The link for my Design Your Life Townhall meeting, our first meeting is going to be August the 23rd. My Cash App information is in the description. All super chats, super thanks, all of the support, reciprocity is always welcome, especially when it comes to these type of conversations, because I'm here to support you and to inspire you and to help you to navigate this timeline that we're actually in right now. And I'll make those announcements at different points in this conversation just to kind of make sure that we are all on the same page. So the chosen ones. We have different concepts of that depending on what religious perspective you're coming from, depending on what your spiritual vantage point is. Some people think that if you have money or influence or affluence in this world, that makes you a chosen one. There is a lot of metaphysics, spiritual sort of hierarchy now. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, where it comes to if you have a certain amount of knowledge in the spiritual realm, that kind of makes you an upper echelon or one of the chosen ones, so to speak. The concept of the 144,000, right? The Elohim, all of these words, all of this language, all of these scriptures, these books that have been written by great minds. And for me, I'm totally, with all of those different sort of focal points. But I also know, because lineage is a part of it, right? A lot of us think that if you come from a certain bloodline, particularly Black people in America, some people call us the Israelites, etc., that lineage, right, constitutes the chosen ones. Some of us think if you were just born here in America, or maybe you were born in, the Middle East somewhere, right? Those people, devils that they are, right? Or, these different concepts of being chosen, right? For me to simplify that and to really double down on the self-awareness and accountability, self-accountability, it's you choosing yourself. What does choosing yourself mean? Well, can you be a chosen one if you don't actually believe in yourself? Right? Can you be a chosen one if you are operating in your lower nature and living in your lower nature? How you eat, how you think, how you feel, how you breathe, how you live, right? If you are a negative Nancy or somebody who is constantly complaining or criticizing, right? If you are not really, paying attention to what's happening in your environment, your situational awareness, right? There's a lot of things that constitute whether you're choosing yourself on a day-to-day basis. For me, choosing yourself on a day-to-day basis is what constitutes the chosen one. That's a frequency game. That's a mental game. That's a vibrational game. That's an energetic game. I see you in the chat room saying rest in peace, Nolan Wells. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But I do want to remind us that, the conversation here, I'm gearing this in a certain specific direction because this is about the people watching this. This is about your personal power. This is about what's happening in your reality, your universal time clock, your universal timeline, right? I want a specific, because I think we don't do that enough. We're not paying enough attention to ourselves. We're not paying enough attention to how we're really doing. And I know a lot of people watching this right now that applies to. I know a lot of people that will watch this archive that applies to. So we get activated in the Nolan Wells and then the Trayvon Martin and then the plethora of other things that are happening in our culture, particularly when it comes to our children, and rightfully so. But we are not paying enough attention to ourselves. So this conversation is about us specifically paying attention to ourselves. And because you brought that up, I want to show these videos. I'm going to show them back to back. The first one is of Tabitha Brown speaking specifically. I don't think she mentions Nolan Wells in particular, but she's talking about the dynamic of raising a Black son, right? So I want to show the clip of her, and then I want to show the clip of Chance Brown. And I'm going to show their perspective, and then I want to follow up with my perspective, which is very different. And I'm entitled to it because I have raised a son who is now a young man, and I raised him in a certain capacity, right? So I've proven my science through my son, right? But I want to make sure that I say, and I have to say this in the world of social media, because people are personality worshipers. And they think that if you say something that is not in alignment or in agreement with the person that they love or the person that they, sort of rock with, then they think it's like WWE, World Wrestling Federation, right? And this is not the case. I love Tabitha Brown. I've shown her content in many different, vantage points in my content. I love her, the fact that she's successful. I love the family dynamic. I just love everything about her. So I want to play these videos real quick. Let me just add them to the studio, and shout out to everybody who is just now tuning in. You guys, please, por favor, like this video. Help me stay active in the algorithm. All super chats, all cash apps, all reciprocity and love is greatly appreciated. And let me just pull this first video of her up. Wait, hold on.
Quest wanted to go.
So, can you guys hear me okay? I don't think I ever got that question answered. Maybe you did. I didn't see your points in the chat room. Pardon me if I didn't. Just tap in with me in the chat room and let me know my sound is okay. My frequency is okay. I have the fan on. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, High Flown. All right, so I'm going to play this video by Tabitha, and then I want to play the video by her husband after that. And then this is not about them in particular. This is about what I said in several videos before about our sons, Black boys in America, who are not spiritually protected in this country.
To the store with his friends. They always riding bikes and walking. And he texted me and was like, Mom, can we stop at the store and get snacks? I literally had to text him and say, hey, remember you're a young Black boy. Make sure your shirt is on. Because, it was hot. They had been, in the pool, had taken their shirts off. Make sure your shirt is on. Make sure you got your phone out, your money in here. Because unfortunately, they sometimes look at young Black boys and assume that they're stealing. Don't give them any reason to think that you're doing anything wrong. It's my first thought. He 14. Just a kid. With money. Going into a store with his friends. And that's what I have to tell him.
A block away from the house.
A block away from my house. And I still have to tell him and remind him how to walk in the store. That's weight.
What did I do? And son away. Now you're taking my future. I don't have a past that I can reflect to, in my opinion, that can make me feel good and wholesome. But now you go messing, you threaten my future, my entire legacy, everything, and all my hard work and restraint. Now you asking of us to do something that is unbearable for me, for the kind of human being that I am. And because I don't want to push a narrative of violence, and because I don't want to push a narrative of, I don't know if I'm right, but I know I'm not afraid. And I know I'm not afraid, and I'm not, and there's worse things in this world to me than dying. I try to restrain from getting in front of the camera and having this conversation, but also understanding why people think that me and my wife and our household are the ones that need to have this conversation. I get it, because I get it. We have a reach that the average person doesn't have. But I just wanted to give you some insight on why you may see the hesitation, and because as level-minded as we are about relationship, our goals for our family, not putting out bad narratives, we still human, and I'm raising my kids in this world, and I know what I'm capable of, and I know the impact that we have.
So thank you so much, Yaya. I appreciate the Cash App. Thank you, Lisa, so much. I appreciate you, Queen. I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm going to be posting headline news tomorrow for our membership channel. So I got some really good content coming for you guys. But I'm very happy to see you here with us. And you were here. Tevin, your son. Okay, so a couple of things here, right? And I know that this perspective is not going to be popular among Black people. Mind you, for 10 years straight, I was heavily invested. I was loud in my travels when I was doing lectures across this country, in my books, in my content, in my videos. I was deeply, deeply, deeply affected by Trayvon Martin's passing, because he looked a lot like my son, right? I was deeply affected by that case, and so many others. And I used to say, if you ever see me speak publicly, I used to say we should know all their names. And I used to know all their names, right? I was adamant about paying attention to what was happening. And I'm still adamant about paying attention to what's happening to our sons and our daughters, but to our sons in particular, to this conversation in these streets, right? So let's put a period on that. There is a time when I would have 100% agreed with everything that Tab and Chance just said, right? And I understand the mindset, I understand the purpose, and I also understand that there's probably a lot of their followers that are kind of egging them on and nudging them to talk about the things that are happening, right? So I get it. What I do know that in the spiritual realm, what you focus on expands. And again, I know this perspective is not going to be popular. I'm okay with that. You guys know that's actually par for the course for me. I'm usually saying something that's going to be going in a different direction and vantage point. What I am saying, and I know for sure, and again, my son is 23 years young, so I'm a parent. I raised a young Black son, right? When we talk to our sons and ask them and talk about how they walk into a store, prepping them for racism, prepping them for somebody following them, prepping them for the worst case scenario, in accordance with the universal spiritual laws, we are 1,000% increasing the probability that they are going to experience those type of things. I didn't raise my son in fear. We never had that type of conversation. And I sent him the video of Tabitha Brown. I just sent it to him. And he said, yeah, you didn't, we never had those type of conversations. He said something else, but it was a little slick, so I ain't gonna put that in there, right? I never had those type of conversations with my son. I never prepared my son for being afraid if he got pulled over by the police. What did I tell Nassim? If you ever get stopped by the police, the first thing you need to do in your mind, obviously the things that go without saying, make sure you got your seatbelt on, pull over, right? Be mindful of your surroundings. But the first thing you need to determine in your mind's eye is, what do you want the outcome of this situation to be? Whether you're with your friends, whether you're just by yourself, whether you guys are in a car, whether you're actually somewhere, out in public somewhere, what do you want the outcome of this situation to be? Thank you so much, Yaya. I appreciate you again for doubling down for the Cash App. What do you want the outcome of this situation to be, right? So that whole how to walk in the store, how you carry yourself. Yeah, how you carry yourself is important. When you walk into the room, you should expect to be respected. When you walk into the room, you should expect to be treated well. That's why when I travel, people be like, oh, be careful over there in Beverly Hills. Be careful when you're in Arizona, when you're in Georgia, the red states. I'm like, everywhere I stand is holy ground. I taught my son that at 5 years old. When the Sandusky, Freudian slip. When the Sandy Hook school situation happened and my son was young, he was right around that same age range, if I remember correctly, give or take a few years. He didn't really have the bandwidth of consciousness to really understand what was happening. But I told him, if there's ever anything like scary that happens in your school, you better know and understand that the whole entire school will crumble and fall to the ground around you, but not a hair on your head will be harmed, right? And so again, I am reiterating the point that if we're raising our sons in fear, that means we're sending them out into the world without spiritual protection. I always say fear is anti-God. And I mean that shit. Now, I mean that on a surface level, right? Because in a frequency world, it's just the different ends of the spectrum. Love is on this end of the spectrum, and then you swing to the other direction, and fear is the other is the end of the perspective. We think that is love and hate, but no, it's actually love and fear. Hate is a derivative of fear, right? So I want to read this passage from The Mysticism of Sound and Music to kind of reiterate this point, because we're talking about the micro and the macro, right? Tab and Chance's perspective is a micro in terms of their vantage point, raising a son, maybe in a predominantly white neighborhood, because they were doing well, right? So I would assume they're in an environment where there's at least a multitude of races, and then I think they're in California, so there's that element. But then in the collective conscious, right? Remember when all of the Black families sent their sons up north because the South was so dangerous, right? And so all of those young men and those brothers went up north. My dad was from Beaumont, Texas. His mother sent him to Oakland, to California, when he was 15 for those exact same reasons, right? So we're talking about the collective consciousness in Black culture in America. And this is critical right now because they are fanning the flames for a race war. Remember in the previous live where I showed the NIGGR march, right? The flyer for the NIGGR march, right? I've seen so much content. People send me so much content with race-based consciousness, with this random redneck, tobacco chewing weirdo, right? Just randomly spewing off hatred, right? So the algorithm is feeding this. Trump is activating it. The lower nature in white America is on 1,000 right now. And I'm emphasizing lower nature to emphasize and to hone in on this specific frequency that was alive when they were hanging Black men in particular, but Black women as well, and cutting off ears and penises, right? So microcosm, macrocosm. Shout out to everybody who is just now tuning in. Please make sure you guys like this video. I am very happy to have all of you beautiful souls here. And I'm going to tap in with you guys in the chat room in just a little bit. I would just want to try to keep the chat room will take me somewhere else, right? So I want to try to stay on point, but I'll tap in with you guys in just a little bit. As a reminder, all of my information is in the description in terms of my website, my books, my content, all the things. So on page 126, this is from the Mysticism of Sound and Music. He says, no, wait, I won't start there. I'll start on 127. If vibratory activity is properly controlled, man may experience all of life's joy and at the same time not be enslaved by it. It is most difficult to control activity when it is once started and on the increase, for it is like trying to control a runaway horse. But yet in the control abides the whole of what is called mastership. What I'm saying right now is so contrary to what the majority of our people in America thinks. I know this is not going to be well received and accepted by most people, and I'm okay with that, right? He says, it is most difficult to control activity when it is once started and on the increase, for it is like trying to control a runaway horse. Trying to have this conversation about taking control of how we think, taking control of how we feel, taking control of how we raise our sons in particular in American culture is like trying to push a big ass rock uphill, up a mountain. Most people don't want to hear it, especially when there's like active lynchings happening around the country. I know all this stuff is going on, right? I'm paying attention. The length of time, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna move down. The length of time that the thought is held has also much to do with its accomplishment, for the thought vibrations have to be active for a certain time to bring about a certain result. A certain length of time is required for the baking of a cake. If it is hurried, the cake will be uncooked. With too great a heat, it will burn. If the operator of the mental vibrations lacks patience with the power of thought, it will be wasted, even if it were halfway to its destiny or still nearer to a successful state. If too great a power of thought is given to the accomplishment of a certain thing, it destroys while preparing it. Now, there's two aspects to this, right? Because we go in upper echelon in this conversation. We're not having a conversation to talk about racism. We are having a conversation to talk about how we're thinking and how we're perceiving what's happening in our environment, because the psychological warfare, the race-based consciousness, the focus on trying to start a race war, the focus on keeping you off your square, the focus on keeping you out of alignment, the focus on keeping you out of peace, the focus on keeping you scattered and all over the place is exactly what they want. Whether it happens on social media, whether it happens in film, whether it happens because somebody got unalived, a police situation, something that's trending, right? So there's the flip side of this, because this is law, universal law, not man's law, universal law. And it's not particular, or, you know, I've said this before. Somebody in my membership channel asked me and wanted to ask me anything videos. Does the law of attraction apply to African people? The question stopped me dead in my tracks. You know what I mean? Does the law of attraction apply to Black boys in America? Does the law of attraction apply to Black people in America? Or are we out here wandering in the wilderness trying to figure this shit out on our own? For us to be so spiritual, right? Tapping in with the church, tapping in with the mosque. Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate you for the Cash App. Praying consistently, meditating, reading the scriptures, reading the Bible, studying the Quran, fasting, all of these things we talk the most spiritual. And we don't understand how the law of attraction works, which is a universal law. In order to reflect thought and feeling on another, man should observe. Wait, did I read that last part? Okay, yeah, I did. I'm on page 128 now. In order to reflect thought and feeling on another, man should observe the same rule as in voice and word. The louder a person speaks in an assembly, the more attention he attracts, and all those present perforce give him a hearing. In the same way, if a Sufi sends forth the vibrations of his thought and feeling, they naturally strike with a great strength and power on any mind on which they happen to fail. As sweetness of voice has a winning power, so it is with tenderness of thought and feeling. Thought vibrations on which the spoken word is added are double in strength, and with a physical effect, this strength is trebled. Now, this just made me think of something. Thank you so much, Dr. AJ. I appreciate you. Good to see you here. I haven't seen you. I feel like you've been missing in action. Now I'm expecting you to be in all the lives, right? This just made me think about something. Did you guys see that video of Ben Crump? I don't know who elected Ben Crump to be the supreme lawyer of all Black affairs. Trayvon Martin was sort of the start of that, where he was trying to read, I think it was one of some legal documentation about what was happening with the Nolan Well case, and he was stumbling and bumbling, and that was not a good look. We have beautiful, brilliant, powerful Black lawyers and legal minds all over this country. Why is he the only one? I think there's something to that. One should never think or speak against one's desire, for it weakens the thought vibrations and often brings about contrary results. So what are we doing every time we prepare our sons for racism, white supremacy? We are speaking against what we actually desire. Coming back to what is said on page 127, the length of time that the thought is held has also much to do with its accomplishment. For the thought vibrations have to be active for a certain time to bring about a certain result. How long has racism, white supremacy been active in our collective consciousness in America? Because we've rumbled and tumbled with the worst. You study the history of America and the inception. Thank you so much, Dylan. I appreciate the super chat. I was about to say super chat. The Cash App. Much love, and you always support me, and I appreciate you for that. How long has the frequency of being afraid of the white man been active in America? How long has the expectation for Black boys and Black children, and have we been preparing them for dealing with police brutality, for dealing with rednecks, for dealing with racism, for worst case scenario? We prep our children for the worst case scenario. It's a fact. And then turn around and go to church on Sunday and praise his name. Why wouldn't we? Let me read this again. 127. The thought vibrations have to be active for a certain amount of time to bring about a certain event or a certain result. So that means, we have to speak it into existence. We have to think it into existence. We have to conceive it into existence. Has my son ever had a situation or an experience with a racist police officer? No. Has he ever had experiences with police officers? Absolutely. Has he ever been disrespected or treated unfairly? Well, when he was in elementary school, we had a couple of situations that I had to step in and intervene, right? But he's a child, so he's innocent. And so he's not projecting anything in particular, right? And it was probably more so a lesson for me in terms of how I handled the situation. Because, at that point, I was still in that I'll say Black power state of mind. I was very active at that point on social media, and I was very much pointed in that particular direction. So don't think that you as a mother or as a father, because of the focus and where your state of mind is, that you can't manifest those experiences in your child's life. So a variety of thoughts springing up at the same time naturally. Actually, let me start this over. One should never think or speak against one's desire, for it weakens the thought vibrations and often brings up contrary results. How much time and energy are Black people in America talking about, focusing about, marching on, voting on, writing books about, creating scripts about the things that we really don't want? A variety of thoughts springing up at the same time naturally enfeebles the power of mind, for none of them has a chance to mature, just as twins are often imperfect and triplets seldom live. The disharmony between one's desire and one's ideal always causes a great confusion in life, for they constantly work against each other. When a person speaks, thinks, or feels either harshly or kindly of another, it reaches the spirit of that one, either consciously or unconsciously, by the power of vibration. If we happen to be offended with someone and do not show it in speech or action, yet it still cannot be hidden, for the vibrations of our feeling will reach directly to the person in question, and he will begin to feel our displeasure, however far away he may be. The same in the case with our love and pleasure. However, we may try to conceal it in a speech or action, it cannot be hidden. This explains the old adage that even walls have ears, which really means that even the wall is not impervious to vibrations of thought. Now let's stop for a second, because I want to flip this now. We're talking about the microcosm in terms of third dimensional reality and what Black people in America have been experiencing and are experiencing, the way we perceive things, our expectations. And if we get into quantum physics, which I did a whole video about this recently, I did the full one on my membership channel, but the concept of the observer, again, this is spiritual law. This is not, there's a certain set of laws for Black people, and there's a certain set of laws for white people, and there's a certain set of laws for Asians, and there's a certain set of laws for Latinos. That's not how this shit works. We know that. Why? Because the greatest examples and greatest civilizations in history were what? Black people. Melanated people, whichever one you prefer, I don't care. Right? Hebrews, Israelites, whatever you're melanated, right? The greatest historical figures and legacies that we're still learning about to this day were our people. So we can't say the science doesn't work for us. We can say that it's working against us right now in terms of what we actually desire, because we're not using the science to our benefit. We're supposed to be operating on a high level of alchemy right now, especially Black people in America. That's why I always say, the world is waiting for guidance. The world is waiting for a certain level of astuteness and awareness and consciousness. Where do we think that's going to come from? Africa is on the rise in terms of economic benefit, in terms of natural resources, in terms of taking their land back, right? In terms of reestablishing the narrative, in terms of taking control of the natural resource. I'm 100% here for that. Africa is not prepared to lead the world out of spiritual warfare. I don't say that as a knock, because everybody's going to play their position, right? I'm talking about the 5% of the 5%. I'm talking about a high level of spiritual alchemy. I'm talking about experiencing the worst of the worst, the most trauma, the most danger, the continuity of suffering, the continuity of chaos, the continuity of mind control and scientific and biological warfare, the continuity of oppression, right? 70 years of lynchings. I saw a post somewhere recently that somebody said it was 6,000 people who were, the estimate was 6,000 people, Black people who were lynched in America. No, it's more than 10,000. I didn't say anything because, I'm going to be correcting everybody. But when you read 100 years of lynching, you know that the estimate was at least 10,000, which means that the number was probably a lot higher than that, right? We know that that's still happening, especially in the South and the Bible Belt in certain areas. Like, yes, I am aware that they are finding our people hung by ropes. But going back to my point, the law of attraction is not specifically working or for or against anybody. It's neutral. It's going to give you more of whatever you are. So if you're raised in a family that's operating in poverty-based consciousness, guess what? That's going to be your hill to climb. If you're raising in a family dynamic where your father is missing, and so you're growing up as a childless father, that's going to be the hill you have to climb. If your mother is unemotionally, not emotionally available, if she is mentally or physically abusive, that's going to be your hill you have to climb. If you deal with sexual trauma at a young age, which a lot of people do, a lot of Black women in particular do, that's going to be your hill to climb. If you grow up in an environment that is victim-based consciousness, or your mother tells you you ain't going to be shit, you ain't going to ever be shit, that's going to be your hill to climb. And guess what? You can turn out to not be shit, and the universe is not going to think twice about it. Or you can change the trajectory, change the dichotomy, do some high-level self-awareness and alchemizing, and then guess what? You come the pendulum swing of being in an environment where you're not loved, of being in an environment where you're not supportive. Maybe there's poverty, maybe there's chaos, maybe there's lack-based consciousness. But guess what? If you can swing the momentum in the other direction, if you can choose that you want to live a different type of reality, if you choose you want to be better than your environment, that you want to be better than your parents, that you don't want to live in poverty, that you want to be a better mother than your mother was, a better father than your father was. If you choose to heal, if you do the work to heal, then guess what? That pendulum swing has to, universal law, has to swing back to the either equal end of the spectrum. So we got fear, chaos, lack-based consciousness, victim-based consciousness, abandonment, resentment, all the things. So what's over here? An undefined, unlimited abundance. Being surrounded by people that actually really, truly care about who we are at the core of our being. Living in your true, authentic life. Manifesting your highest desires. Being clear about who you are, being clear about your purpose, being clear about what you came to this planet to do, being confident in walking in every single room and owning it, whether it's 100% Black or 100% everything else. I walk into every room like I'm supposed to be there. I walk into every community, every environment like I'm supposed to be there. Well, what if you happenstance to come into around some racist rednecks? Spirit will protect me from these things. And if I end up there, then I'm supposed to be there. Maybe somebody here needs guidance. You know what I mean? Am I looking to teach, rednecks or racists? Absolutely not. They'll probably never be in the same room with me. But if we end up in the same room, then yeah, there's a purpose for me here. What are we doing? Because the dominant and the dominant versus I always say recessive, but recessive isn't the word, right? When I talk about dominant vibrations in terms of relationships, that means you a brother who is focused on knowledge of self, right? You stop eating pork, you trying to eat clean, maybe you plant-based, or maybe you trying to, right, live a certain quality of life, but your girlfriend or your wife is not. Right? She ain't trying to read. She don't want to work out. She don't care about all that meditating. I remember I did a consultation and the brother told me that his queen didn't like when he called her queen. It was frustrating for her. Like, she's like, don't call me that. I'm not a queen. Right? That was a sign. And not to get into the specifics of that, but he would have been the dominant vibration in that relationship. Right? If you have siblings and all of your siblings are all going to the left or to the right, but you're the one, usually the black sheep in the family, right? You're the one that broke the patterns of dysfunction, right? You're the one who changed your diet. You're the one who stepped away from the church or the religion that was holding everybody back, in the dogmatic mindset, and you go in the other direction. Yeah, you're the dominant vibration in those relationships. But the flip side is that you have a higher level of accountability. You have a higher level of awareness and responsibility. And it looks and it feels like, well, I'm the one doing the work. Why is the onus on me? Right? Why am I supposed to do ... Because these are the spiritual laws. Whatever you are putting out into the universe is going to be reflected back to you. The experience is being established by the way you treat yourself. Your life experience is being established by the way you see yourself. Your life experience, the people you meet, the jobs you get, the businesses you start, the experiences that you have in the world are 1000% being mirrored based around how you see yourself. So that's an individual level. Now multiply that by the collective consciousness of Black people in America. Multiply that by the behavior that we see in the hood. Somebody, and he might be in the chat room now. He's not in the chat room because I would definitely see him. I was talking in the Cardi B video that I did, and I put up a clip of it. And he was basically like, well, why are Black women being blamed for what Cardi B, because Cardi B is, a Latina. She's definitely a Black woman, a light-skinned Black woman. I don't, you know what I mean? She speaks Spanish. I speak English. Does that make me English? right? So, you know, the cultural aspect of it is one thing, but I'm about to light an incense, y'all, not a spliff. So yeah, he came at me a couple of times. I'm assuming this is a brother, and he was basically like, black women are being held accountable for, you know, what the Cardi B's and the Latinos you know, are doing. And of course, I hauled off just a number of black women who have been. We could say that black women in America, in terms of that Delilah frequency, in terms of that overly objectified sexual sort of frequency that's heavily active in the rap culture right now. Black women started that shit. So how do we know, if we want to differentiate Cardi B from the Lil Kims of the world, how do we know she wasn't inspired by Lil Kim? So the when I went online to let everybody on Instagram know that I was live, hold on, let me put this in this holder. When I went online to let everybody know that I was live, the first thing I see, Lil Duval, who I follow, sometimes, some days I don't understand, I don't know why. Then other days I understand why. But Lil Duval had posted this video of this very overweight sister, you know, black woman. She's probably at 300 pounds or something like that, but she had on a bikini and a thong on top of the bikini, and she took the thong off, and she took her underwear off, and she was bending over, and she was twerking, and she was surrounded by black women that were slapping her ass, and everybody around them was like, you know, cheering it on and clapping it up. And I'm thinking to myself, why would anybody in their right mind respect the people who conduct themselves like this? Twerking on tables in restaurants. Now, does that represent the whole of us? Absolutely not. That doesn't even represent the majority of black women. And that's the thing that I be having issues with a lot of you brothers about, to whom it may concern, the professional podcasters of the world that try to project like that represents all black women. No, you guys just don't pay attention to the ones, you know what I mean? You guys are looking for the problem, and so it's showing up everywhere. But coming back to this point, right? Because I'm kind of going all over the place, but it's all relative. So the flip side of this wisdom, this universal law, right? These laws. So we talked about the microcosm and the macrocosm in terms of Black America. Shout out to everybody who is just now tuning in. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm very happy to share this Sunday, August the 2nd with you guys. Please be sure to like this video. Our subject today is the chosen ones. I started out talking about how I have been kind of triggered over this last week with the whole situation with Dr. Fauci. I'm going to do a separate live this evening, and I'm going to talk specifically about that. But I have been triggered in remembering how deaf, dumb, and blind so many people, the majority of people, the intelligent ones, the influential ones, the doctors, the lawyers, the people that we were all looking up to in terms of like their vantage point, and how we got hoodwinked. Well, I didn't get hoodwinked, but how so many people got hoodwinked and bamboozled and got that poison put in their bodies, and we're living in fear. And fear is the ultimate motivator that the devil uses to control you. Fear is the science. Fear is the technology. Fear is the frequency that they are using to keep Black people in a perpetual cycle of march, protest, unalive, frustration, complaint, trauma, abuse, neglect, infrastructure, politics, educational system, DEI, right? All these things. You would never think that in an environment where Black people are complaining about history textbook being taken out of the schools, that somebody like me who actually wrote a textbook wouldn't be getting support. But that's another conversation for another time. So that's the microcosm in terms of Black people and how we're navigating what we call racism or white supremacy in this reality. Now, coming back to this point, in terms of you as an individual, because if we're not talking about your personal power, then what's the point, right? We're talking about the chosen ones who choose themselves, which means that you have to be mindful that Something just came to me, but I'm not going to say it. You have to be mindful that the length of time that the thought is held has also much to do with its accomplishment. For the thought vibrations have to be active for a certain amount of time to bring about a certain result. So you want to start a business. Listen, man, it's 2026, August. So we have August, September, October, November, December. This is going to be one of the coldest winters ever. I'm not talking about the temperature. 2027, I said Satan came from behind the curtain in 2020. 2027, this nigga's going to turn up for real. So how do you navigate that? How do you, we say, put on the armor of God? What does that actually mean? That's frequency. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you, Queen. And I miss you. Where you been? For the Cash App, Chris said, love hearing your parenting stories. Preach. Yeah, man. That's my son is my everything. Y'all think I'll be fiery online, play with my son. You see a whole different side of me. But I raised him in a way where he's navigating life on a certain type of frequency. I didn't raise my son in fear. I didn't raise my son to expect that for police officers to mishandle him or mistreat him, or when he walks in a room that anybody is going to be feeling some type of way because a black man entered the room. No, they're going to be excited to see a king. They're going to feel the energetic resonance when you walk in the room, and the power of your energy and and the momentum in your spirit, let alone when you actually start talking. That's when all bets are off, right? So the length of time that your thought, what is it that you want to manifest? Where is it that you want to live? You want to, we talk a lot about food right now, right? And food scarcity and water scarcity and all of these things. So we're all on the food and water scarcity frequency. Disaster preparedness. That language is not, what's the word I'm looking for? That language of preparing for a disaster. I remember I heard Greg Brayton talking about mammograms and how the medical system has women thinking and focusing on at a certain period when you get to a certain age, or if you have a certain type of you get to a certain age of your life where you have physical health complications, where you start searching for lumps in your breast, right? You start searching for things going wrong in your body. Black men, how many times have you heard, well, you 50, you better be careful, prostate cancer. So it's prepping you for something to go wrong in your body. So your cellular system, this is how, listen, man, I know for some people that are listening to me, this is too woo-woo, this is too upper echelon, like you don't want to hear that, hey, take the best part and leave the rest. We're talking about universal spiritual laws, the way that this reality was actually constructed. It will work for you or it will work against you, but the only thing it's ever going to do is mirror you. So on the bigger scheme of things, it wouldn't even be working against you. It's just all things work for the greater good, right? So the continuity of how we think, the continuity of how we are experiencing third dimensional reality, our expectations, how much mental energy, spiritual energy, emotional energy are you actually placing into the things that you want to be made manifest? I ain't talking about the work, because the work goes without saying. I've worked hard all my life. You know what I mean? And the times when I worked the hardest is when I actually had the least. And the times when I was in alignment and when my mindset was clear and when I was focused and when I didn't have any doubts and any fears, that's when I had the most. And the people who work the hardest in this country absolutely have the least. And the people who have the most work the least. If the operator of the mental vibrations lacks patience, then the power of thought will be wasted, even if it were halfway to its destiny or still nearer to a successful issue. How much thought or your thinking or sloppy thinking are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Because sloppy thinking will run you into alignment with a racist cop. Sloppy thinking will run you into alignment with a gold digger. Sloppy thinking will run you into a parallel reality and existence with a, can't say what I just, F-U-C-K boy. I was going to say something else that started with B-A-N, but you know, I'm trying to be spiritually appropriate here. We'll save that for the conversation about Fauci when we start talking about demons and wickedness in high places and low places too. So on a lower level of the spectrum, the level of murder and violence in a city like Chicago, and a black man taking another black man's life in a vicious and cruel and disconnected way. That's on the same bandwidth frequency of a Dr. Fauci or a Bill Gates. You got a little demon and a big God. Thought vibrations to which the spoken word is added are double in strength, with the physical effect that this strength is troubled, meaning when you speak it out loud into existence, when you say it to your friends, when you say it to your parents, when you say it to your children. Again, many of us are raising our sons in fear, and black boys are going out into the world without spiritual protection. Many of us are raising our sons in fear. And let me I forgot I had them on the screen because I don't want to make this about them because it's not actually about them. It's just a point of making a bigger point. Many, if not most of us, are raising our sons in fear. And then they go out in the world and they connect with and they experience and they are relating to the world from a fear-based frequency and a fear-based consciousness. A variety of thoughts springing up at the same time naturally enfeebles the power of the mind. So the mitote of the mind, which Don Miguel Ruiz talked about in the 4 agreements, right? So if you have constant chaos going on in your mind, if you can't sit still without quiet in your mind, listen, y'all, I say this every time, because I collect a lot of content on Instagram, on Facebook. I save the content in preparation for either these conversations or when I do my headline news episodes, right? So I'm looking at the situation with Nolan Wells. I'm looking at the situation with the small hats, right? And how they are basically slowly but surely infiltrating our government. And they're not really infiltrating. It was infiltrated a long time ago. They're just disclosing it now, right? The conversation about lack of resources, the conversation about water, the conversation about food scarcity, about water scarcity, the conversation about, what was the other thing, the big thing, all of the situation in Spain and Morocco, which, how do 60,000 people just show up anywhere out of nowhere? And I'm looking at that same thing, and I've said this in a video before, the teen takeovers that are happening all over America. How do we know that AI isn't what's actually, AI sending out notices and sort of directing a certain attention or pinpointing a certain demographic based on what they know about you, what it knows about you, and sending certain signals and certain messages and sort of coagulating and accumulating people based on how they're thinking and feeling. And then all of a sudden you got those same type of teenagers who have that same type of mentality, maybe prone to violence, maybe rebellious in spirit. Maybe they hate their lives. Maybe they're unhappy. Maybe they're dissatisfied. Now all of a sudden they show up all over the country and start tearing shit up. Look at the situation in Spain and in Morocco. 60,000 people show up. 2 days later, 60,000 people get sent back home. Right? It's a show. It's smoke and mirrors. What is this really about? I'll talk about that get into that in the headline news episode. So let me pause on this real quick because I think I made my point. That quantum physics aspect about the observer, right? Life is responding to you. These are notes from my video that I did the other day. Your expectations are what's creating your reality. Black people in America, your expectations are what's creating your reality. The laws are not neutral to us. Or excuse me, not neutral. The laws are not, special for us. We aren't living under a different set of rules than everybody else. And when you throw in the melanin factor, right, we kind of have the advantage on a cosmic level. So if you have the advantage biologically, if you have the advantage mentally, if you have the advantage spiritually, the Kabbalion said what? The closer you are to the center, the freer you are. The further you are away from it, the more in bondage you are. That's why we're suffering so much. That's why they have access at our sons, because we're so far away from the center. What's the center? Self. What is self? God. So our children are paying the price in America because we're out of alignment spiritually. And then we turn around and inflict fear on them and then send them out into the world. Your nervous system is a part of the participatory. We are actively participating in creation on a universal level. How you think and how you feel. Your vibrational resonance, your state of consciousness and awareness. What you think about yourself matters. How you treat yourself matters. How you eat matters. How you feel matters. It's what's actually constructing your reality. If you expect rejection and failure and disappointment, then guess what? It's going to find you. If you think when you show up for the job interview that you have the disadvantage because you're Black, then guess what? You do. If you think you have the advantage because you're intelligent and because you're confident and because you know what you're talking about, then guess what? You do. I'm going to play this video by this guy. This kind of underscores a point that I want to make as it pertains to what I'm talking about right now. Shout out to everybody who is just now tuning in. I'm very happy to have you guys, especially because this isn't a sexy topic, right? This is not, we're not talking about, well, we kind of are talking about trending topics, but our subject today is the chosen ones, right? And the chosen ones choose themselves. And it's a heavy cross to carry right now to have consciousness. It was such a heavy cross to carry in 2020. Can I just stop for a second and tell you guys, and I'll probably say this in a later video that I do about Dr. Fauci. I'm so proud of us. We endured and overcame the greatest psychological warfare, the greatest ostracizing, the greatest mind fuck, the greatest spiritual and medical and scientific. Man, listen. Woo, I have to even be careful about what I say. Not because I'm so much worried about the algorithm. I kind of know how to navigate around that, but because I know the average person doesn't have the bandwidth for the reality of the truth. When we start talking about transhumanism, when we start talking about, so the God gene is, I'm going to tap in with you guys in the chat room, but I'm intentionally not looking at it because I don't want to get thrown off. The God gene is going back to, this is not personal, right? Black people have pineal glands. White people have pineal glands. Asian people have pineal glands. You have an advantage as a melanated being in terms of the pineal gland and the kinetic energy, right? Do you understand that there are crystallized formations that surround your pineal gland that is operating on kinetic energy? That if you eat right and if you think right and if you live right, that you can receive downloads and uploads from universal consciousness that will help you guide you, and navigate any particular circumstance or difficulty in your lifeline, that you can attract the answer to your problems on any given day, that you can outwit, outsmart, outplay anybody in any capacity, in any room, in any environment, when you know who you are, when you take care of yourself. I'm just saying.
What's the dollar amount? I'm curious.
Delusionally optimistic. I was just scrolling around as Zaza. Okay, see, that's why I don't look at the chat room, because I'm like, huh? I'm going to tap in with you guys in just a second. Somebody said, what's slavery? In context of what? Let me know what that means. Did someone say chosen ones? How can I help you, ma'am? I see you, chosen one. Yeah, so let me play that again, because I want to hone in on something he said, and it's only like 40 seconds.
I'm curious.
So he said, write down a dollar amount that would give you financial freedom where you would never stress, and then write down the dollar amount that you're afraid to write down. And he said that's the real number, which I thought was critical, right? Because I realized this about myself. I told you guys I had an issue with my vision boards at one point where I couldn't, 2022, where everything was looking shaky. I couldn't bring myself, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to put on my vision board, right? Now the trips and the cars and the material things don't matter as much when you realize you're in a real bona fide spiritual warfare, right? But I realized at a certain point that I was aiming too low, right? And so that idea of the number that you're afraid of writing down is your real number, but you're afraid of writing it down. That's a jewel. He said, what if it's easy? And we all know that Rubik's Cubes are like notoriously considered to be difficult, right? I know a few people that can solve them. I never got into them like that. I've never, to where I even attempted to try to conquer the Rubik's Cube, right? But I do know some people who can work through a Rubik's Cube real quick, right? But then showing you the blueprint on the screen and showing you how to get through it, the universal, or how to master it. The universal laws that we're talking about is the recipe. It's the blueprint, right? That concept of doing unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Yes, that's talking about how you treat people and expecting if you treat people good that they're going to treat you well. It's also talking about how you treat yourself, because how you treat yourself determines how the whole entire life experience treats you. Thank you so much, Will. I appreciate the super chick sticker. How you see yourself, race has absolutely nothing to do with this, except whether you have the disadvantage because life has sort of shaped you in a certain type of way to think a certain type of way. You're not behind the 8 ball because you're Black. You're not behind the 8 ball. It's like if you can alchemize the circumstances of your life, you have the advantage then. Because once that momentum starts to work in your direction, that shit's going to touch everything. It's going to touch relationships. It's going to touch your money. It's going to touch your finances. It's going to touch your health and well-being, right? It's going to touch your peace of mind. That's what we all really want, is peace of mind. There are 5 habits that everybody should be focusing on in order to live a well-rounded life and experience. Money, obviously, to take care of yourself, your health and well-being, something creative, something that's allowing you to grow and learn. Hopefully my content is a representation of that. And then something that helps you relax. This is a very important remedy because, again, what's the focal point right now? Controlling human consciousness. What's the focal point right now? Keeping you on the hamster wheel. They are trying to start a race war. That doesn't mean that the Nolan Wells situation happened like where they said, all right, we're going to have so-and-so and such go out. You're going to get this boy. This is going to happen, like giving you instructions on the ground. What they do is they find these cases and these situations and they sensationalize certain things that happen. to steer the collective consciousness in the direction that they wanted to go in. 63% of Americans right now are living check to check. 90% of Americans have less than $500 in their bank accounts after they pay their bills. That is not living. But how do we change the trajectory of that? Number one, identify that. Number two, make a decision. So when we come back to what Hazrat Inayat Khan was talking about in his book, he's talking about the amount of time that you can hold on to a thought, not just say it, but to internalize it, to think about it, to dream about it, to write it down, to create a vision board, to create a vision book, to do your research, to watch videos that are particular to what you want to manifest, right? But then you got to take care of yourself too. You got to take care of your mind. I just really appreciate this, so I'm going to share it. Let me share this meme real quick. I saved several of them. Hang on one second. That's not it. Okay, this is the one. Not gonna lie, this conversation is hidden right now. Yeah, God summoned me for you. You know what I mean? That's real. That's what a real spiritual teacher or a real spiritual student, I prefer. People call me a master teacher. No, I'm a master student. You can't be a master teacher without being a master student. I prefer the title of a student, right? Owning 100% of your time is so rare that when people see it, they assume you're either unemployed, broke, or lying. What would it look like and feel like to own 100% of your time? I don't bang with Oprah Winfrey, but she said one thing one time that really, really stood out to me when she said that, real freedom is waking up and deciding what to do with your day. That's the type of time I'm on. Right. I've been self-employed since I was 21 or 22. I'm 46 now. Right. And you come with the trials and tribulations of being a business owner, being a small business owner are what they are. You sacrifice a lot, right? You pay a heavy price to do it your way, right? But I own 100% of my time. I decide what I'm going to do with my day. Today, I decided that I was going to do the video later on today, but then I decided that I was going to have this conversation with you guys. So we're at an hour and a half now. We're going to talk about Dr. Fauci in just a little bit, right? But I decided that this is what this day was going to look like. This is what this day was going to be spent doing. Because, again, I got triggered. I remembered how they treated us. I remember how they played with us. I remember how they played in our faces. I remember how they were offering cheeseburgers for shots. And the technology in the shots is so advanced. And they're giving that shit out for free. Bruh, if you're willing to spend trillions of dollars to create this type of technology and put it in my body for free, but I can't get a $5,000 business loan or a grant for school. So the discernment element is critical right now. The discernment element in 2026 could never have been higher because we think it's what happened, ED, like past tense. And I'm telling y'all, it's a very heavy cross to carry. Having foresight and vision and discernment right now is a really, really, really heavy cross to carry. So this mental work that I'm talking about, this spiritual work that I'm talking about, this intellectual and this emotional and this energetic work that I'm talking about, this is where we have to be focused right now, because if they tell you you can't fly, you need to be able to vibrationally be like, nah, you got me fucked up. I'm going where I want to go and doing what I want to do. If they tell you that if they intentionally cut the electricity off in a certain space, you need to be on your square spiritually so that you know when it's time to stay and when it's time to go. If you are, if Agent Smith pops up in the reality of your mother or your brother or your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or your partner or your business partner, if Agent Smith just all of a sudden starts running the show, do you? Because I saw some people that I've been knowing my whole life turn into Agent Smith in 2020. What are we doing here? What do you mean I can't come visit if I haven't taken a shot? I've stayed at your house 100 times. I can't visit if I didn't take the Jim Jones juice. Oh, okay. How do you rectify that? I almost said something. I don't even know if I want to say it. It's a heavy cross to carry, y'all. And we think that it's something that happened in 2020 and 2020. We think it was 2020 through 2023. Like, nah, that was the precipice. Remember the Georgia Guidestones. You notice how that shit don't even get talked about anymore. Somebody just randomly blew up granite stones in the middle of nowhere. I've been there. I've actually seen them face to face. I read the language about reducing the world's population with my own two eyes. Thank you, KGB. I appreciate you. Yeah, Agent Smith. I got jokes too. I'm here. I can entertain you while we are all becoming intellectually informed, hopefully intellectually stimulated. But the Georgia Guidestones, you know, we never talk about that. Did anybody ever get caught? Of course not. They got cameras all over that place. These things are in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. And it talks about reducing the world population to what? I'm sorry, what? 500 million from 8 billion, allegedly. They blew them up. Why did they blow them up? Because they met their quota. Not the 500 million quota. The quota of the number of people that they wanted to get. I don't even want to go there because you know what I mean? I'm going to say that for the Dr. Fauci conversation. I know that a lot of us don't have the bandwidth to deal with this, but what I do want to say is that in the last 6 years, I have experienced so much anxiety and stress over the choices and decisions that the people around me made. I know a lot of people who are not here anymore. They put on ventilators. They gave people remdesivir, which floods the organs. They put ventilators on them. I had like 20 conversations with different people, clients, consultations. Went in to get checked and didn't make it out. Went in for minor things, diabetes complications, things like that, and never made it home. And then they told you that it was the CVD-19. And then they used those statistics to scare you. So fear, we started with fear in terms of how we're raising our Black sons. And now we're back to fear in terms of the lack-based, scarcity-based, victim-based consciousness that they are constantly focusing, honing in, and projecting on us. Because if they can keep you in fear, then guess what? You will create the illusion. You will create the FEMA camps. You will create, I'm not just talking about go along with this stuff. I'm talking about actually creating it. The placebo and the nocebo effect are perfect examples of that. You can believe that you've been given the cure and cure yourself. You can believe that you have 6 months to live, even if it's a lie, and kill yourself. Wait, placebo, you can believe that you have the cure and then cure yourself. You can believe that you have a projection of a short term of life, and then you tell your cellular system, well, it's been a good run. I enjoyed these last 30, 40, 50 years, but the doctor says so and so and such, so let me start getting my will and trust together. Instead of being like, I beg your pardon? You said what? I have 6 months? Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. How do you give me my paperwork? Let me go ahead and sign out. You'll never see me again. My birthday's in November 5th, Scorpio. Y'all busy in the chat room. Let me read this passage from So I have to take a break before I get into the Dr. Fauci situation, because that's going to bring a whole nother element of me out. I think I have one more video. Yeah, I'll save that video for next time. Actually, you know what? Where are we at? Okay. I'm going to tap in with you guys in the chat room. I had a passage from here that I wanted to read that was really powerful about what we're talking about, but I'll save that for another video. And I also need to maintain my breath and my voice because, attention and intention is everything. So going back to the 63% of Americans who are living check to check, 90% have less than $500, blah, 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 all the things, right? Talking about the way you're thinking and feeling about your life right now, you have to pay attention to your reality, your circumstances, and then set new intentions. Even if you don't yet know how it's going to come about, right? Even if you haven't figured out exactly what you're going to do to get there, you've got to set the intention. You have to be decisive. And a lot of us are living very indecisive lives right now. So you don't want to wait for the shit to hit the fan. You want to get ahead of it so that when everybody else is scrambling, right, and trying to figure it out, you are sitting on an energetic resonance that says that you are assured. I know that I know, right? I am that I am. That's a hell of a thing. I am that I am. Oh no, Zaza, Bill Gates owns 50% of the farmland in America. I am that I am. The white man is turning up and the lynchings and the brothers, and they keep taking our children out, or what are we going to do? I am that I am. The water centers with the data centers and the food situation and the soil condition and I am that I am. Some people, that's not going to make sense, but there are some people that are listening to me right now that will be able to 100% understand exactly what I mean when I say that. And not just the words, but the assurity in my face and in my voice. Just like in 2020, when everybody was like, oh my God, I was like, I don't know I'm not doing that. Not quite sure about a lot of different things. I got to sit back and pay attention and see what's really happening right now. But I can guarantee you'll never put a needle in my arm. You'll never put a needle in my arm to go anywhere in the world. I think all of the shots that are being offered right now have that technology in them. So I'm not putting a needle in my arm to go to Africa, to Bali, to South America, nowhere. What I am going to do though is set the intention that I'll go to Africa, Bali, South America, and anywhere else I want to go on my planet. Different frequency, different energy. So paying attention to what's happening in your life in real time, where there's dissatisfaction, because dissatisfaction brings what? Change. It should be, unless you're just super settled into the conditions of your reality. Dissatisfaction is the prerequisite for change. So paying attention to where you're falling short right now, paying attention to where you're dissatisfied, paying attention to the relationships that are not adding value to you, paying attention to how you're spending your time, paying attention to how afraid you are, paying attention to how afraid you are, and then setting a new intention, setting a new bar, setting a new goal, setting a new focus, because we're not doing that. Again, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew what I wasn't going to do. If I got to live in a reality of Babylon is falling and Armageddon and the fall of America and Israel and America's military is coming together and joining forces and all this fear, but if I have to live in this reality, I need to be somewhere on a beautiful beach where there are mountains close by, where I can drop a pineapple or a mango if from the trees if necessary. I want to live comfortably. I want to live well. I want to be in a tropical environment with beautiful weather. I want to be able to go wherever I want to go and do whatever I want to do. I want to keep writing my books. I'm not worried about AI at all. With my mind, come on now. Setting new intentions for your life, for your relationships, for your business, for your job, for the way you feel and think about your actual life. Black America needs to set a new intention for the way we talk about white people. Black America needs to set a new intention about the way we raise our sons, about the way we talk to our sons, the way we prepare our sons for the world. Now, if the white man is against you, where's God? Oh, there, you know what I mean? Because do you really believe in God if you're warning your son about going out into the world and facing some redneck cop who's probably barely making ends meet and hates his own life, which is why he hates you? Could you really possibly believe in God? Yeah, no. I'm sorry. Shout out to everybody who is tuning in right now. Make sure you guys like this video, please. I'm going to tap in with the chat room. So if you have any specific questions as it pertains to this conversation, drop them in the chat room and I will address them. I'm still doing a live this evening, Dr. Fauci, because I need to get this off my chest. You know what I mean? When I feel like the devil is present, I suit up. I suit up for spiritual war, for intellectual war. I'm here for it. You know what I mean? But I'm a spiritual warrior. So I got to do my job. So I'm still going to have that conversation. I'm going to pause and probably grab something to eat real quick to nourish myself and gather my bearings. And then we're going to get into that conversation. But if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, and again, all the information is in the description for half off a one-on-one consultation. I'm ending consultations in August of 2026. It is finito. I am done. I will no longer be available for that particular service anymore. My Cash App is in the description. I appreciate all of the super chats and the reciprocity and the love. And let me just see. It's a lot going on in the chat room, so let me just backtrack a little bit here. Man, you guys have been busy in here. I know you have little to no choice. This is your square sending you love. What the hell? What incense are you lighting, Zaza? This is, what incense is this? This is sandalwood. Incense are I can't function at my highest capacity if I don't have incense around. I probably was an incense maker in another life. I think I probably was. And I'm going to make my own incense very soon. But yeah, I have to have incense to keep me focused. There's always a proxy for the entire country when it pertains to Black folks. Yes to everything. Love your position and intensity. Some people tell you in so many ways to calm down, but they never say that to Nancy Grace, Candace Owens. Facts. Oh man, listen. You speaking my language, because everyone who sends Zaza a Cash App donation will receive good news by the end of the day today. Facts. Peace, Ty, peace, chat, and everybody coming in, riding for Zaza. Much love, Tyrone. I appreciate you. Wow, she didn't want to be called a queen. What does she want to be called? Yeah, I think that the language is, is something that you have to live up to and embody. And I think that rubbed her the wrong way. But she also didn't want to change her diet, right? She didn't want to exercise. If it was bad, it was bad if Billie Holiday made a song called Strange Fruit. Yeah, look what they did to her. And you hold that book. The Mysticism of Sound and Music by Hazrat Inayat Khan. This is Sufism. Sufism is and was the prerequisite for what later became Islam. So these are the more sort of the broader concepts and perspectives of what later became known as Islam as an organized religion. Sufism is a spiritual collection of ideology and culture and sort of governing the self that is way more, I won't say way more, it is focused on God consciousness, in my opinion. Sandalwood incense is what it was. Zaza, have you been to the Black Wax Museum in Baltimore? I have. I went probably maybe 8 years ago. I don't make myself believe there's a such thing as white supremacy, maybe racism, but I'm not calling anybody supreme. Facts, except when I talk about Dr. Fauci and the supreme liars. Crump is the biggest plant, said it years ago. Facts. It used to be Lee Merritt and Benjamin Crump together back when Trayvon Martin passed away. Now Crump is the solo lawyer for unalived Black people when non-Black people are the suspect. Yep. And why is that? When there are, again, we should have a hit squad of attorneys. There should be a fund with $50 million in it that has a hit squad of Black attorneys that specialize in labor, that specialize in contracts, that specialize in, affairs dealing with police, the justice system, the prison industrial complex. That's how we would know if it was real. When we get serious, we come together and do crowdfunding and put together a source of finances where when things like this happen, we're not putting out fires everywhere. We just call up the crew in California. We call up the crew in Texas. We call up the crew in New York. But hitters, though, loyal to our people, loyal to truth, that know the law. We got plenty of highly intelligent Black lawyers all across this country. Why is he always the face? When Zaza speaks, it's like a trumpet call. I mean, on a good day. That was me, by the way. My Cash App didn't have my all good high flown. I appreciate you. Let's see. Gift and a curse, but I know I have no choice. Keep going, Queen Zaza. Positive blessings. Yes. Facts. I know you have little to no choice. This is your square. Had to do the math. Among roughly 48 to 49 million Black Americans, 144,000 is the refined 5.5% with 5.5%. Okay. That's an interesting number. Now, that 144,000 is a global thing. It's not just us here in America. I think the 144,000 is really, I don't know if that number, and this is just my hypothesis, if it's necessarily about the specific number. And of course, 144,000 is 9. So there's that. But I think it's also about the extreme difference in 8 billion versus 144,000. Right? Just to give us an idea of how many living, fully functioning, soulful beings there are still left on this planet that are still striving for the light or a higher sense of self or consciousness, right? 8 billion versus 144,000, the number is staggering. But that's an interesting, numeric breakdown right there. I'm gonna have to think about that. Cognitive dissonance. The mind is more powerful than the human race gives it credit for. Facts. Yes, ma'am, you speak in the real. I wish more people was on this time. I haven't even heard that I have even heard peace, more sense. How you doing, King? I forgot to respond to your email too. That's my bad. It irritates your intestines to the point that it can develop polyps. Better off just being proactive and cleansing spiritually and mentally and doing a bentonite clay detox. Bentonite clay will completely flush your whole entire system out. Calcium grade bentonite clay, head to toe products.com. I've been screaming this from the top of my lungs for the last 15 years. I would definitely be focused on that than, the other routes. Ride Zaza, that they had me on that fear frequency fuckery. You got to work in the 5th and 3rd dimension. Most people stuck in the 3rd. Facts, high flown. It's always inspiring listening to you, dear sister. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Society, what's good? Happy to see your happy faces in the chat room. They're all pre-existing operating systems that have a predetermined end. Combos like this should compel people to level up their capacity to handle deep intellectual thought. Facts. Tony T. Boss said that's demon time. This sounds like that Tom Cruise movie. Yeah, so many other movies. What was I watching the other day? First of all, Dark Matter on Apple TV about parallel realities and the quantum realm. Fascinating show. It kind of went left at the end for me, but they had to, make it Hollywood so that they could do a part 2 and a second season. But a very fascinating show when it comes to, I think the show is Hollywood, but still the idea that you have all of these different pathways and these different choices and decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis. Make sure if you're going to make the choice and decision that is what you really want. It's true to who you really truly are. That's the timeline we're in right now. Like wearing the mask to deal in the world anymore, wearing the mask to stay in a relationship, committing yourself to unhappy circumstances and situations. Yeah, that shit is for the birds. We got to be decisive right now. Dead reckoning when the AI created all of those events. We have had, did I share that? Okay, I didn't mean to share that. My bad. We have had several team takeovers here in Chicago. The last one was back in June 2026 in Hyde Park. Yeah, spending my opinion. I think there's something to that. I want to do a breakdown on that because they had 2 recently here in the LA area. There was one at Huntington Beach, and I think there was one at Long Beach too. And it's just like, okay, how are all these young people knowing to get together and galvanize? Social media, that's easy to answer. But then it's also like, but how are they bringing together like-minded, there's something to that. I'm gonna take some time and really look into that, because my intuition spirit is really telling me that there's something else going on here. And I think that's another, reflection of what just happened with Spain and Morocco. And mind you, Spain, Morocco, as I talked about in Ancient People, when the Rock of Gibraltar, when Tariq went up and took those 7,000 Moorish warriors, African and Arab warriors, and invaded Spain at that point. That was like the real start of, and I'm saying this because there was two timelines, right? The Greeks went into Kemet and studied at the feet of the pharaohs and brought back a lot of wisdom that they gave them. Not all of the wisdom, but some of the wisdom. They took that back to Europe and started to disseminate that information amongst the well-to-do ones in their society. And that was the start of, the greatness of what later became Europe, right? That was the start, the precipice. So that was the first timeline. And a lot happened between then and what happened when the Moors invaded Spain. But when the Moors went into Europe during the Dark Ages and civilized Europe and civilized Spain, France, Italy, they were all throughout Europe. They didn't just go and conquer. They brought wisdom. They brought intellectualism. They brought a number system, right? They brought the wisdom that ended up giving life to the greatest universities all over Europe. All those universities that sprang up after the Moors were eventually expelled in the 1400s. Yeah, that's when all of their great universities sprang up, because they were already adept to and had access to all of this great knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the Moors brought to Europe. They brought them out of the Dark Ages. Okay. And so they vowed, this was at this point, yes, it's absolutely about race. We can't have these Africans and these dark-skinned Arabs, and they can't be coming up here and taking our women and creating these mixed race societies. And they're too smart, and they're too brilliant, and they're too vibrant, and they're too fly, and they're too poetic, and they're too classy, and all of that shit. And then, of course, the lower nature of those kings took over, and then they got on their bullshit, which is why what eventually happened ended up happening. But I think that what's happening, the parallel reality of what's happening in Spain and in Morocco right now, the timeline of that versus that situation, it's all relative. It's all relative. The battle between good and evil, the battle between light and darkness, the race war concept sort of, it's ending. It has to end, because it's not of God. It's not God consciousness. It's not God frequency. That shit's not going to be able to exist in this timeline that we're walking into for Black people or white people. We got a lot of Black people out here that want to be Black supremacists now and do to white people what they did to us. But that's what makes us godly, is that we're not like them. Mission impossible. If we truly understood Christ consciousness, we'd be free. Facts. Did someone say chosen once? How can I help you, ma'am? I feel you on that. As seeing people around me fall for it was the divide. Yeah, in 2020, the great divide took place. It's still taking place, because they're about to hit us with a whole bunch of Jedi mind tricks. They're already doing it. And so the question is, can you stay on your square and stay, true to that Christ consciousness? That's a choice every day. Don't forget to like this video, you guys. Accepting all love and reciprocity. Cash App information is in the description. Super chat, super stickers, all of the things. Dr. Fauci was raked across the coals in Congress the other day. I'm just listening. Yeah, he's just what that really is about. They're making it seem like they want somebody to be held accountable. No, they don't. They're telling you what they really did. It's disclosure. So when they sit up there and say, oh, you said the mandates, you said this, you said that, and he's like, I plead the fifth. All they're doing is saying the mandates were a lie. The 6 feet separation was a lie. The this was a lie. The that was a lie. The statistics, the numbers, it's disclosure. It's not about holding anybody accountable. They think that there is a karmic loop for them if they tell you what they're either doing or what they did. So they can always be like, well, I never said I was going to cure you. I just said you had to have it to go to Greece. I never said if you take the shot, you'll never get the disease. I just said if you want to keep your job, you need to put this in your body. And then some people were like, you can take this job and stick it up your you know what? And some people were like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do for my family if I can't make a living. Separation. Morrison said the majority of people around me took it. I have love for them, but I can't ever forget what that timeline revealed. Facts. I'm never forgetting. I'm never going to forget. I'm never going to forget how that shit affected my business and my money. I'm never going to forget. The colon of many melanated people have been colonized by parasites, so much so that their gut is screwed with falsehood. There must be a deep cleanse of the gut mind in order to receive the truth. Facts. And your gut is a strong representation of how you're thinking. We are quantum. Yeah, real talk. You said black people overse the great mind in history. I was asking if you meant slavery. No, I was talking about, you said overse, O-V-E-R-C-E. I'm assuming that was a typo. But the greatest mind, F-U-C-K, in history was in 2020. And a lot of black people took that shot. The estimate is 70%. I know a lot of us were like, hell nah, but a lot of people took it, right? And a lot of people put it in their children. And then a lot of people around the world, right? So yes, that was 100% what it was. Slavery was written. Slavery was the result of choices and decisions that we made collectively as melanated people around the world that took us off of our square. And so that parable about Hiram Abiff being buried in a shallow grave and put to sleep for a specific amount of time so that the world could come into a certain level of darkness, and then the awakening was supposed to happen. That is a sort of metaphor for Black people in America, the Black man and the woman in America in particular, but not all of us. Only the ones who qualify, only the ones who choose themselves, only the ones who believe, only the ones who decide, only the ones who are clear, only the ones who are intentional, only the ones who are on that I am that I am frequency and vibration. Because a lot of our people, unfortunately, are going to be and have been cannon fodder for this realm and for this timeline. Only being respectful to a person sharing their time with the world. Yes, I'm with you on that. Everyone who sends out, okay, much love, powerful woman. I see you. Zaza's content is fire. I appreciate that. And I like the fact that we can come and have these type of conversations and be on some real intellectual, serious, but focus. You know what I mean? It ain't no smoke and mirrors here. It ain't no entertaining here. We all here building and having a higher, upper echelon conversation. Not gonna lie, this conversation is hitting right now. We're running on all cylinders. Facts. Many of you content creators have a very pleasant message to share. Much love. I appreciate that. Is it a coincidence that race is used also in competitive sport? Absolutely not. Not at all. November 5th is my birthday. I said that already. That's what I said. People nowadays aren't racist. The real feeling is envy and entitlement, and people of all races struggle with this. Facts. And the more you see, I saw a video of somebody in Argentina that had a black doll, and the black doll was like, he was beating up a black doll. Remember the whole thing with the Asians, and again, we don't know how much of this is the algorithm. This is why we got to be careful right now and have discernment, because they'll have y'all out here fighting with strangers from halfway across the world that might not even be real. And y'all turned up, y'all whom it may concern. You mad about some random, weirdo in a small village in the outskirts of Japan who probably hates his life, that went and bought a black doll just so he could take it home and beat it up so he could trend on social media. I mean, what are we doing here? Right? So the Argentina dude, and Argentina's been trending for a number of reasons. I don't want to get into that because it'll take me somewhere else. The FIFA, obviously, but other reasons as well on a political level. So this guy has this dark-skinned doll, and he is just, I mean, like pounding away, and everybody, meaning the people that I saw sharing this video, is like, see, everybody hates us, da 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 da. And I'm reading the comments, and I'm like, this nigga is batshit crazy. Why? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if I ain't even gonna say that. It's like the crazy uncle that comes to the family reunion or the barbecue at the 4th of July barbecue, and everybody gathering around and being upset that he's crazy. These people are crazy, right? These people are off their rockers. If you set your phone up and took a doll of any race, any nationality, and just filmed yourself beating a doll up, I'm not giving your ass none of my time, energy, or attention. I am not feeding the algorithm of psychopaths. A lot of you guys are feeding the algorithm and aligned with the algorithm of psychopaths. Self-employed gang. I'm here for that. I wasn't born in any fear. I refuse to die with fear. Facts. It was a follow the herd mentality. Facts. The stones got destroyed because of what was written on them had been accomplished. They hit their number. It hasn't been accomplished yet in terms of that 500 million number, but I think they hit their number in terms of their quota. You helped me navigate my family member on a ventilator when I needed emotional balance. Thank you. Peace to the great God, Ishmael, babe, my brother. That means a lot to me because you never told me that. So, and I know too, and this is what brings me so much like peace. I've gotten so many messages over the years from people that were like, I didn't take that shot because of you, or I didn't give it to my son because of you. Or, one lady said she had already took it and then she stumbled upon my content and she was about to take her 15-year-old son because he wanted to play basketball to get the shot. And she wrote me this beautiful, amazing email. And, she's afraid and all that. I sent her my article that I wrote about if you took the shot, what to do. And I'm going to talk about that in the Dr. Fauci video, but she was talking about her son. She even sent me a picture of him in his basketball uniform or whatever. And I've dropped a few tears, I'm not going to lie, because I did pay a heavy price for that. And I was, at certain points I was like, why did I do that? Or I should have been more this or that. Like, nah, bruh, this is, again, the chosen ones choose themselves. So sometimes you got to do what your heart tells you to do, and they say, follow God. What does that actually mean, though? Follow your heart, follow your higher self, follow that nudge and that spirit in the back of your mind that you don't necessarily know why or when or how, but right? So much love, King. I appreciate you for sharing that. That really means a lot to me. I want to talk about C19 with my family who took it about being proactive to detox, but I know they will feel like I'm attacking them in their character. And so here's the thing, because the detox aspect is one level of it. Why you took it and the fear aspect is a whole nother ballgame. And so we talk about this being a spiritual war, like, yes, a physical war in terms of what they put in your body and the whole aspect of it. But the spiritual aspect is, why did you get that shit in the first place? Well, I was afraid. Yeah, but why though? Well, because they said that it's all they said. There was never any prime direct threat in our direct vicinity. Maybe somebody coughing, right? Or you had a family member who went, okay, so they tested them and said they got them. So now you're afraid because the test said that they got it. Well, what's wrong with them? The people didn't really get sickly until they went into those hospitals. So this is the point where, the separation of the wheat from the chaff, like, yeah, we, is having discernment and knowing who to speak life into and who to conserve your energy for when it comes to the bigger picture, What do you mean by they didn't meet their quota? 2012 was just the beginning. Just wait. I saw your other message, so I think you understand what I meant. Peace and blessings, my brother La. Assalamu alaikum, King. I think the most important thing to realize is that the conclusion has already been written. All of this chaos is desperation. Yeah, and they know their time is up. They know. That's why they're trying to up the ante on their war against the Most High. These people actually think that they are going to be able to defeat God. So look at all of the ways they're attacking the human, our operating systems. Should I get into this now? So SM-102 is one of the things that is found in the shot, right? We all have what they call the God gene, also known as chromosome 8. I did a whole in-depth analysis in this on my Kingdom Within web series in 2022 when I did that 7+ hour lecture presentation. I left it all on the field. But the goal was to have this technology go in and take out chromosome 8 and replace that using the technology in the shot so that they can now control the operating system. If you have a Windows-based computer or you have a Mac, you understand iOS is the operating system for Mac. Windows is the operating system for regular PCs. If somebody comes in and hacks your computer, they can take over the operating system and be able to control it without you being able to control it. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. And I'm being careful about what I say because I don't want the algorithm to work against me. And maybe I'll get into that later. We'll see. But yeah, man, spiritual warfare on the highest levels. Hey, Queen, I'm a Scorpio too. October 26th. I knew there was a reason I was drawn to your content. Love. Yeah, big Scorpio energy for sure. In our time, I'm seeing a lot of in terms of how people are reading the stars. I'm seeing that August and these next few months is going to be a very plentiful and abundant time for Scorpio. So I am here for that. Make sure you guys like this video if you're just now chiming in. Of course, all love, all reciprocity, Cash App description, super chat, super stickers, all the things. That is not something that can get flushed out of your system once you took that thing. It's now part of your genetic makeup. Well, I think that there is a way to get it out, but it's not just a simple detox process, right? Because they've weaponized things that were people's illnesses, things that were lying to. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for the Dr. Fauci video because I'm going to get into all of that. What's up, girl? How you doing today? What's up, boy? How you doing today? King Hazy. I'm assuming you're a king. So, hey, boy, how are you? Happy to have you here. I'm trying to catch up with these chats, man. Y'all's busy. I had to get the shot. Hold on. I had to get the shot. Dad's funeral. Thought I was going to take the Southwest Chief, but no trains, had to come home, called Delta. Email me info@zazaali.com. I will send you my article. I wrote 2 articles based on my research and the people that I respect that are well versed on the technology that's in it. Send me an info@zazaali.com and I will send that to you. And again, the intention is everything. If I had that shit in my body, I would be like, yeah, I'm going to Japan. I'm going to South America. I'm going to South Africa. I'm going anywhere I need to go, but I've already decided that I'm getting that shit out of my body. That would be my position off top. I'm glad I caught the live, but I'm going to have to watch it again from the beginning. Yeah, we talked about some really good things. We need to be intentional. We need intentional relationships with powerful nations. Facts. Totally agree. 144,000 is a frequency. Come on now, Grandmaster. Don't be trying to live up to your name in my chat. 144,000 is a frequency, a bandwidth of consciousness, a state of being. Facts. Know the Ledge 360, Zaza, listening from Barbados. Peace and love. Happy to have you here. Shout out to all the family in Barbados. We can't do it alone. We must establish other relationships outside of the Black American population. I agree 100%, Robert. I agree. That's the beautiful thing about having this platform is that I'm tapped in with people all over the world. I have people all over the world that watch my content, So it's like we're building a foundation and connection so that when the time comes for us to start moving around, that it's gonna be there. High Flown said 144,000 could just mean a mindset and how rare it would be. Perhaps never thought of that before. Actually, facts. Yeah, you're kind of saying the same thing that Grandmaster said. It's a frequency. Assalamu alaikum to all my brothers and sisters. I could. Well, assalamu alaikum, Rahmatullahi. Barakata to all my fellow brothers and sisters of the Islamic Ummah. Much love. Happy to have you, King. Always happy to have you. Let's see. That's what you want. Bentonite clay, since you took one shot. Yep, that clay for sure. Global shipping of goods from abroad. We need infrastructure, transportation, and manufacturing. Fact. Does the higher consciousness actually become a constant metaphysical experience like a lifelong ayahuasca trip? Yeah. Except, on an ayahuasca trip, you take the substance and now you on until you're not on. The higher consciousness is an everyday thing, right? Especially when you're in a world that's constantly tugging at your lower nature. So that whole concept of Jesus and Judas, these are archetypes. One day you can be Jesus, one day you can be Judas. So it's doing the consistent work and being mindful of yourself and aware of your surroundings consistently so that you can maintain that frequency. But it's a frequency that has to be maintained, Botanical Brother says Supercell Season 1, Season 2. I'm not familiar with that. I have to check that out. What platform is that on? Love your content, Zaza. You are not afraid to tell the truth. Much love. I appreciate you. What does this higher consciousness mean for you and to you? I mean, I feel like we've been talking about that. I feel like that's all I've been talking about in this conversation. Living from love and not fear. Being intentional about how you live your life. Actively choosing your reality opposed to going with the flow of this world. Adding value, resonating and radiating love, being thorough. For me, higher consciousness means that I should be able to sit here and talk to you guys for 2 hours and you walk away from this better than when you came, or you got clarity on something, or you feel unstuck, or you feel this is quality content that adds meaning and value to your personal power. That's what higher consciousness for me means. Somebody who is an artist might be reflecting beauty and abundance and texture and quality of life or their skill set through their art, right? So there's different levels to it. But for me, it means adding value. For me, it means not living in fear. For me, it means I am that I am, How much actual land do we own in America? What is our economic solution? Yeah, those are great questions. And there's actually a lot of Black people who own land here in America and around the world. And the economic solution, I remember when Professor James Small, who is my beloved brother, said that economics is when you take your culture and find a way to create an economic infrastructure based around your culture. So that can mean, whatever your culture is, the cultural aspect of like being Black or African, those things, but then also like spirituality is a culture. Fasting is a culture. Veganism is a culture. Alkaline way of life is a culture. Being a writer is a culture. I'm surrounded by books, y'all. I kid you not. I have books everywhere. It's just a thing. I probably created books. I probably had a publishing system warehouse or something at a point. I might have one in this lifetime too. I'm surrounded by books everywhere around. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books on my desk right now. Right. So for me, my economic solution is intellectualism. And I create an infrastructure where I create jobs and create industry and create business and teach people how to be self-publishers, right? So that's one of my economic solutions. But then we all have to be able to answer that question, right? What is our economic solution? Okay, I said my answer, you say yours. And I'm not saying that, asking you to say that. I'm saying we need all hands on deck. There's thoughtfulness in the last live from you about me. I got you, Kwame. Yeah, I got you. I appreciate you, King. And I'm happy to know that you are doing well. 144K is the first resurrection, which happened over 100 years ago. We are living in the midst of the second resurrection, which is prophecy to have multiple millions of higher consciousness young people. Okay, I'll take that. First and ever time I've seen Zaza, interesting person. I have no problem with her. Well, I appreciate that. You not having a problem with me. I hope that you find value and benefit in what we've talked about today as well. Let's see. Peace, Queen Shah. How you doing, sis? Happy to have you here. She sent me a beautiful African dashiki and some incense. That's my sister. She's in my membership channel as well. All right, let's see. Modern day holy wars between the U.S. and Iran. Yeah, we know who's controlling the U.S., so there's that. We need food processing and aerospace engineering and medical equipment development. Facts. So who's interested in those things? Because those people need to be in those, right? I'm not interested in aerospace engineering. I can research and talk about it and, create a conversation and dialogue around it. But like, there's somebody watching this and people out in the world that like, that's their shit, right? We need to have support systems for the people that actually, that's their niche. It's like I said, we need to have a hit squad of lawyers because that's their niche. All of us don't need to be all hands on deck every time a young Black man gets unalived by a police officer, right? We need to be mindful and aware, but we need to just send our hit squad of lawyers out because there's too many fires to put out. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And food processing in particular. I have chromesthesia, full of synthesia, feel that's my natural born higher consciousness, but what is the God Christ frequency consciousness? So I've explained that in a few different ways. It's a lot of different ways to explain that, but I kind of broke it down in that. And I know I'm late on the super chat, so you guys, the chat room, so y'all pardon me. I had grandparents that begged me to take that shot. I said no every time. Good. Drink silver infused water and take activated charcoal frequently. Facts. Colloidal silver is everything right now, especially if you have ongoing mucus in your nose and in your throat that you can't shake. That's partially from those swabs that they put in you guys' noses. That's partially from the white lines that they spray in the sky. That's a technology that we are all being inundated with. But colloidal silver nasal spray will be your best friend. I promise you. I even fought my boyfriend on taking it. He didn't because I didn't. Good. You see how that works? Truth is supposed to be leading our relationship. When truth leads the relationship, then we don't have any issues. If we all submit to truth, then we're good. Now imagine if she, as a woman, her boyfriend is trying to tell her to take that shot. She'd been like, yeah, well, there's levels to this shit. All they had to do was say they was going to take your job, and a lot of Black folks fell in line. Facts. My brother passed from the pandemic. He didn't take it either. Yeah, I know a lot of people who lost their lives or who are dealing with real serious health issues right now because of that. I never took it and I lost friends because of it, but I am glad I chose not to, looking at what's happening now. Same. There's a lot of Black people today that I've spoke with that now believe slavery never happened. What do you think about that? I think that the numbers of people that they were saying were enslaved are exaggerated. And I also know that there were already Black people who were here who were not brought over here by boats. And so they would be qualified in the number of Black people today, right? But all of us didn't come over here on slave ships. So yes, slavery was absolutely a real thing that really happened, but I think they greatly over-exaggerated the number of people that they actually brought here that made it here that eventually were turned into what we call slaves. They didn't come here as slaves, right? They came here as free men and women who were kidnapped. And then eventually, what happened when they got here or different parts of the Caribbean and South America and whatnot, those things took place, chattel slavery and prepping them for chattel slavery. I think the numbers were greatly over exaggerated. And I know that all of us didn't come over here on slave ships because some of us are indigenous to this land, America. But yeah, it definitely took place. Thank you, Yogi Fish. I like that name. I appreciate you. Much love. Yeah, FIFA is, man, listen, I got to do a separate video about that. It's a whole other thing. I ignore people who try to erase history by saying slavery never happened. That's craziness. Yeah. They want to start a race war. Facts. Slavery happened, but all Black slaves are not African. Yeah. Well, there's a whole nother, maybe I should do a video on an expose on that. I don't know. Thank you so much, Westbred. I appreciate you for the super chat. I appreciate you for the love. And I did show you Yogi Fish. Thank you guys so much for the reciprocity. It means a lot to me. Many people follow their self, but they're into Satanism, so it can't mean that. The different autoimmune problems that trigger. Facts. Exactly. Happy to have you here, Kisser Rose. Kaiser. Oh, Kaiser Sose. Okay. I see you. I work in home health care, but my job did not require that I take the shot to keep working. That's a blessing. That lecture was golden. Yeah, I put my foot in that one. I don't watch CNN or Fox News anymore. Zaza got the best news work in America. Let the truth be told. I mean, it's a work in progress, but we got to stay informed, and we got to stay informed, but not in fear. If you have the balls, if you have the kahunas to think that you're going to create a plasma-like grid in our upper atmosphere where you can weaponize the upper atmosphere of our planet to use it against humanity, to dim the sun, to alter the weather, to create a dust that people breathe in, where they're breathing in a technology that can actually go in and create a biometric censorship system in their system, which is based on your immune system and your vibrational resonance. That's another topic for another conversation. But if you have the audacity to try to take over the operating system of humanity, if you have the audacity to be creating weapons for something you think is trying to come and infiltrate from outer space, if you have the audacity to study seeded watermelons, seeded oranges and lemons, and find a way to recreate that shit where you can take the seeds out, meaning taking the life force out of them when they literally grow with no problems, if you have the audacity to fluoridate our water, if you have the audacity to create genetically modified salmon, then I feel like, okay, first of all, we can fix that. We're going to fix that. We're going to neutralize that. But we also have the audacity to think on a grand scale. The audacity, that's one thing, the white race, we can say for sure, the audacity. They're explorers. Captain James Cook, I talked about him in Ancient People. Everywhere they went, they brought disease and killed millions of people. But the audacity for me, it's like, if the devil has the audacity, then what do the gods have? We are greatly living below our potential at this moment in time. So, interesting thing about the algorithm, it comes from a colonial mind. Facts. May have to do an updated Kingdom Within. I've thought about that for sure. I've even thought about my third volume of Black Matters. I was going to, instead of doing it on racism, white supremacy, because I'm not interested in talking about that at all. But I did think about doing it. I have the title, but I don't want to say it because I want nobody fighting my shit. But I did think about doing like an expose from 2025, from 2020 to 2025, and like really exposing what happened in written word, but then also talking about the spiritual dynamic of it. So that would probably be my offering as far as that's concerned. High flown, you can watch the replay. It's all good. Just paying tribute. By the way, do you have any other recommendations for shows to watch other than Dark Matter? Okay, so Hawk is not anything like Dark Matter, but that shit is funny as hell on Netflix. Oh my God. The show Hawk on Netflix is hilarious. It's just comedy. It ain't nothing serious or deep about it. Black Mirror, obviously, is a good show. I don't know. You have to come back to me on that. I have to think about that. And what type of show? Because, I like good film. I like good acting. So if you're looking for something in that same vein, I'll have to stop and think about that for a second. But Dark Matter is a great show. Have you spoken about ivermectin? I did in the Kingdom Within web series. Yes. Peace, Solomon. Very happy to have you here, King. We must block the reset in the dream state on August 12th. So, you guys know there's supposed to be a social media fast from August the 1st. I think it's till the 7th. Are you guys participating in that? Is anybody participating in that? I love how you pour into all of us with knowledge and best of all, positivity. Yeah, Jazzy, that's what we're here for. I have the audacity, because that's the real game. The real thing they're trying to keep us from is the love frequency. Is 8/12/2026 after the effects of the Lionsgate portal? I think you might be asking Fred that, right? Because he was speaking on August 12th. Lionsgate portal will be August the 8th. The plan is to reset on August 12th and insert the replacement, aka NPC, aka robots. Yeah, man, it's a lot going on right now. I'm telling you. Thank you, God. Zaza. Perfect alignment. I see you. You are most welcome, Native Drums. Thank you so much. I see you. I hear you. I see you. I feel you. But sometimes you can be like a college professor, ma'am. I am absolutely a professor in every capacity. And I really tone it down when I do these videos. If I really, really, really stretched my arms out and told you guys what I was really thinking and did the kind of content that's really true to who I am, you would definitely think that I was, you know, my content might not be relatable for a lot of people, or it might be a little too highbrow. I've been told that my stuff is highbrow, but that's what I'm here for, to raise the bar, you know? So yeah, this is just who I remember there was a meme that was everybody was posting. There was like, oh, I have to dumb down so much of my stuff. Everybody was sharing this, right? Like basically like, because we live in a world of ignorance that they have to dumb down. I'm like, nah, I'm not dumbing down shit. I don't mean that to you. I just mean that in terms of like, nah, bruh, we got to step our game up. We got to step our game up. But again, I'm only like really, you know, I'm not, this is not even scratching the surface. I try to keep it to where it's understandable and relatable, you know? Facts, high flown. No outside force can govern our temples. I think divergently, so sometimes I get lost in the sauce. Peace, JB Furious. How you doing? They have suppressed technology. Okay, I'm hella behind on the chat. I'm just trying to catch up, you guys. To my point, Queen Zaza, you are truly a part of the 144K that are doing their active part in raising these multi-millions during the second resurrection of consciousness. I received that. No, we did not. Everybody didn't come on the backs of slave ships. Yeah, that's a fact. Walaikum salam, Aubrey. Happy to have you here, King. Yep, smart desk, Richie Rich, exactly. We all got sick from that so-called fire sun oxygen. Stay away from seeded watermelons. They have parasites inside. I don't know, Fred. I don't know about that, champ. Yes, do a video on the history of slavery all over the world so that people can know that it did not only exist in America. Also do one on the Trail of Tears, the genocide that was done to the natives. I will definitely consider that. I had to put myself in a certain mind frame to go there. So yeah, that would take me some, I had to put myself in a certain space for that. That's not necessarily the frequency I'm on right now. I am, there's a real active slavery happening in the world right now based around fear, but yeah, I can probably put something together like that. My grandfather was enslaved in Robeson County, and he was Indian, reclassified to mulatto, and then black, and I have all of that on record. So yeah, it happened, but to who and how, yeah, exactly. I watch Black Mirror, like the Twilight Zone. I'm participating in the fast, but I didn't know that was happening. I decided yesterday that I want to get off social media. Man, listen, I'm telling y'all, social media, there's definitely a time coming when I'm not going to be on social media. The batch of seeded watermelons are poison this season. We are in the real Hunger Games, I'm sure. They got some seeded watermelons out here in LA. They got a couple of Black-owned farmers out here that do their own seeded watermelons, and I know a lot of people that support them that they're not having any issues. So that might be happening somewhere in a specific area, but it's definitely not happening everywhere. And the seed is the life. Thank you guys so much for all of the love, the Cash Apps. You can definitely show love and reciprocity via Cash App or super chats, super stickers, all of the things. Dr. Fauci, the Supreme Liars. I'm still going to do that video today. It's 6 o'clock right now. I might need like an hour break. So you guys will get the notification of if I change the date. Okay, that's in Philly. Cool. Rob Blackstorm said, I just got here, but do you think the chosen one's narrative is dangerous? The wicked think they are chosen ones too. So yeah, we are 2 hours in, King. So if you go back and watch the video, you'll be able to get context on exactly what I'm talking about, because the real chosen ones choose themselves. And it's not from an arrogant or superficial or an ego-based space. choosing to be a chosen one in this timeline, meaning to walk in the straight path, to be righteous, to be upright, to eat a certain way, to live a certain way, to be in and not of this world. That's what I'm talking about. Not the language of the chosen ones, but the actual weight and responsibility, the cross that you have to carry in this world. And you have to choose that on a day-to-day basis. So I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for all of the love, all of the reciprocity. I hope this message brought value to you. And I will see you beautiful people very soon, like later on tonight. Peace and love.